Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the TMAS webinar. We are thrilled to have you join us today for this insightful session. Today's topic is Setting Up of Blood Center by Dr. Nittin Henry, Senior Consultant, Transfusion Service and Cellular Therapy, Head of MVR Blood Transfusion Service Network at MVRCCRI. This session will be chaired by Dr. Sajith Vilambil. He is currently working as an Associate Professor in Transfusion Medicine Department. Dr. Sajith Vilambil has completed both his MBBS and MD in Transfusion Medicine from Government Medical College, Trivandrum. He has over 12 years of teaching experience in transfusion medicine. He served as a district nodal officer for blood transfusion services in Thrissur and is a key member of state chemotherapy cell in Kerala. His expertise and commitment extended to his role as WHO assessor of blood banks in Kerala. He is a curriculum committee member, examiner, question setter, and interview member of Government of Kerala. His contribution to the field are highlighted by his authorship of Kerala State Transfusion Policy and chapters in various textbooks. He has 24 publications in index journals. He has presented scientific sessions at both state and national conferences. His dedication to the scientific guidance and contribution is evident in his involvement in various voluntary blood donations activities. In recognition of his significant contributions, Dr. Sajith Vilambil has awarded the Young Scientist Award by ISBT in the year 2019. We welcome you, sir, to chair this session.
A very good afternoon to one and all. Let me thank TMAS for inviting me to chair this session. Before going to introduce my dear friend Nittin, I would like to congratulate the team to select such an important topic, because whatever we learn, I think many of the residents have joined the meeting. So whatever you learn, whatever you do, finally, we will be ending up with setting up a blood bank and doing all the administration, such things. Because yes, the science will be there, but that administrative skill and the capability, ability, everything must be there. So coming to Nittin, he's now working in MVR Cancer Center as a senior consultant, and he is a gold medalist in MHI HBT. He has done his transfusion medicine course from Jubilee Mission Medical College. He has 6 publications, and moreover, he has established that I have to tell something in detail, because Nittin has done something very instrumental, not just establishing a blood center, but he has tapped the scope of a real blood center. Like, he has started connecting the nearby catering centers, and he has established a very wide setup of a transfusion chain in the district of Calicut. So I think for covering, Nittin will be the best person to talk on this subject. So he has established MVR Blood Logistics and the network of 12 blood storage centers, and he is a member of ISBT Working Party for Cellular Therapy. So I'm not wasting your essential time, because I feel after the talk, many of our youngsters will be having so many doubts to discuss with Nittin. So over to you, Nittin. Thank you.
Thank you, Sajith. So first of all, I would like to thank the TMAS and TMAS for providing us with this opportunity to present on this important topic. So the thing is, setting up of a blood center is a bit, this topic is a bit different from the routine scientific talk which we undertake on a regular basis. It's like, in this, we'll be talking more about the practical experience which I had in the past 6-7 years, where in the last 6 years, I had undergone almost around 6 to 7 inspections. First was starting the blood center, then multiple inspections for increasing the number of components. Then I I went through the renewal inspection. And soon after that, we had constructed a new blood center because within the 5 years, we had outgrown our existing blood center facility. So we had to build a new blood center and we moved into that space. So we are moving into that space. So we had gone through multiple inspections in the recent past. And talking about the legal aspects, it is based on the interpretation. How you a law is how good you interpret it. In the sense, many people related to our various ecosystem in our ecosystem, various strata of our ecosystem. There are many people associated with us, the bureaucracy, the government. So it's like a single law can be interpreted in different ways. That's a cusp of the matter. And the way I'll be interpreting this will be a bit different from how others might be. And from state to state, there will be a variation because health is a state subject, and setting up of a blood center, the state has a role to play in it. So the state government can put their own influence in it based on the SBTC standards and guidelines. And based on the zonal difference, there are actually 4 zones, major zones for drug controller. And there will be a difference based on that also. So what we have faced in the recent past in Kerala, it will be what I'll be discussing about. So in my talk, this will be the broad things which I'll be dealing about. So coming on to the discussion, who all can start a blood center? So basically, in our place, actually, in our country, actually, government, Indian Red Cross Society, hospitals, and charitable trust or voluntary organization can actually start a blood center, start and operate a blood center. And recently, there has been a recent notification which has been sent by the CDSU to all the centers saying that when a hospital starts a blood center or they are going for a renewal, the state need not have to recommend for licensing unless the blood center is within the premises of the hospital. So that is not present anywhere in the Gazette, but it has been added recently. And putting government aside, all the other centers, they'll have to be approved by the State Blood Transfusion Council based on the policies laid down by the National Blood Transfusion Council. So without the SBTC NOC, none of these centers can go in for the licensing. So I'll be dealing with all these topics step by step. So when you think of starting a blood center, these are the basic things which you have to consider. One is the location and surrounding. You know that it has to be in a hygienic place. It should be far from open sewage or public lavatory. So the basic thing is it should be in a clean place where contamination is prevented as much as possible. And you should have an idea regarding how the waste disposal is. Usually the hospital, in a hospital-based blood center, when you are attached to a hospital, the hospital will be having a well-organized MOU and a protocol how to deal with the waste, who will be taking care of. We have a centralized way of waste disposal in Kerala. So we have an association with them. A contract is there. So it has to be produced to the during the inspectors, during the inspection. And lighting, ventilation, the building, the lighting should be well lighted ventilation. So either it should be completely air conditioned, or in the places where there is no air condition, ventilation should be provided. It should be free from pests. Basically, when the inspection happens, you shouldn't have a rat running around the inspector. That will be really bad, and you can even lose the possibility of getting a license. So the areas where the pests can hide, those kind of free spaces has to be minimized. Pest control has to be done on a regular basis. It is good that you have a contract with somebody who does that. The floor has to be smooth and washable. You can either have a washable tile or the recent polymer-based flooring. The polymer-based flooring will be better to look at based on the aesthetics, but it will be at least 3 times costlier. So you need to decide based on the management and the capital which you can decide on that. The drain and the sewage, it has to be separate from the rest of the. It has to. When you build a hospital or a health facility, the sewage has to have certain standards. You have to stay with those standards. That's what. The drain should have traps. It should be free from other drains. Actually, once in one of my inspections, uh, the inspector had called for the entire plan of the sewage. He wanted to see that whether our sewage drains are common with the rest of the drain. Actually, he wanted to see whether it was being shared by the canteen drain. So it was not. We didn't have any issue. So then staff safety, vaccinated, rape. All the staff should be vaccinated for hepatitis B. They should be draped, gloved, shoe cover, head cover where there is feasible. Staff rooms should be provided. Dining area should be separate from the blood center, such that Indian food has a very big, strong aroma to it. And when you actually have a meal, the entire area smells of it for a couple of hours. So you should avoid that. The blood center should have a good toilet facility. The additional requirement, you can have a pantry plus or minus based on how you want to take it forward. Audiovisual entertainment should be provided, TVs and all music to be played. The reception should be spacious. The basic thing about donor walking into a blood center is that they have to be comfortable. They should feel like walking back again into your blood center. So you'll have to make them comfortable. So whatever you can do to make them comfortable, you have to do. The elevator facility, parking facility, they are actually spending a part of their life, their own time, and taking time out of their life and coming all the way and spending maybe around 1 hour with you to donate their blood. So you will have to make that practice easier. So you need to have separate parking facility for the donors. Loading and unloading, if you are looking for a facility like what we have built over here, in the sense we have a lot of CAM collections coming in and a lot of stock going out for our storage centers and nearby blood centers as bulk transport. All these kind of loading and unloading, transportation, all those kind of things should be made easier. And when this is not for my department, but when some departments, the blood center will be in a separate location, far from the ICU and all, and you might have to transport the apheresis machine, that is a 52 lakh apheresis machine. That's Optia being transported. Just imagine being transported without a cover over it, and a rain happens. That's a scary situation. So you need to have plans for all those things. So most of the apheresis, the sense plasmapheresis or cellular apheresis will be in the ICU. So you might have, if you have an Optia, you cannot have an Optia everywhere. So you have to have a good plan for it. Coming on to when you draw the plan, these are the basics. Actually, the blood center should everyone will be aware of it. This is the basics in our curriculum actually. So in Kerala or in a well-to-do place, what I feel is that if a blood center can work in this minimum requirement space, then you need not start a blood center. You can actually get the help from another blood center which is bigger than you. And so when you invest in a blood center, you need to invest in such a way that it has to be huge and it can cater to the requirement of a lot of multiple centers nearby your locality. That's my outlook. So you can have your own outlook, but this is the basic requirement that is required based on the legal, the law will ask us to have. So the basic number of rooms, registration and medical examination, counseling room, and these I have depicted the rooms that has to be air conditioned and which can or need not be air conditioned. So by asterisks, I have depicted few rooms which can, provisions can be, there is a point which says that provisions can be relaxed if requested, but I don't think the inspector will be open-minded to consider that to be relaxed, not to have a TTI for your own sake, or for a laboratory for blood grouping serology. Not having, they will not give you a license. So you need to have all those. Maybe you can share the sterilization and washing area with, if you are able to convince the inspector, with the rest of the hospital, if the hospital has one. And these are the other rooms which you can have or not have. It is based on your decision. An eye testing room, SLA, it's based on your outlook and how you want to take your department on into the future. So building a center and finding an area after some time, after you start your operations, it won't be that easier. So it's like even the management won't be so happy to give space once the operations of an hospital starts, because blood bank, as you know, is a department where there is minimum revenue, in the sense you cannot expect to have a profit or revenue out of it. So the management won't be intending to spend a lot on it. So initially, when you build itself, if you have an idea that you are taking, you are going to grow your department into these specialties, then you need to have space allocated earlier itself. So, and being a cancer center, it will be good if you have a radiation room, but having a radiation facility for a blood center alone is gonna be a costly affair. You need to have either a gamma radiation chamber or a specific X-ray machine. Both of them are very costly and a tedious process. So if you have a LINAC in your department, and you are confident that you can get approval from your inspector, you can go for that. You can go for shared facility. So again, you need to stick on to the standards based on fire, electrical, and chemical hazards. In the sense, for every building to be built right now, you need to adhere to certain guidelines, because we have fire accidents happening in hospitals quite often. Every year, we are getting to see one health facility being destroyed by fire. So it's quite rampant in our country. So they are getting quite serious regarding that, the bureaucrats. So you need to have smoke detectors, alarm sprinklers, escape route has to be defined. In-house fire department can be present if you can afford to, if you are being in an institute. Extinguishers, hoses, the specific pipeline for that, all that can be built during the construction phase itself. Based on the electrical thing, you need to have that do's and don'ts. The standards has to be kept. You need to have a backup generator, alternate plans when the power goes out. All this can happen one fine day, and you need to have a plan for it. You need to pre-plan it. Trip switches, and based on the recent, we are all talking about sustainability right now. So you need to take care of how you waste your, not to waste electricity and water also. So keep that also into your plan when you start planning for one blood center. Then chemical. So NABH has MSDS, that's a material safety data sheet. So all the hazardous chemicals has to be entered in whichever department, whichever hazardous chemical there is, has to be entered in that. And you need to have hand wash and eye wash facilities. A splash is not quite common in a blood center, but it can happen. And if it happens, you need to have facility to hand wash and eye wash. Again, coming on to radiological standards, ARB has given quite standards for how to plan your radiation room. You need to stick on to it. The personnel has to be given the required gear. There's a restriction. Entry should be restricted for pregnant ladies, and wherever it has to be. Biological, again, especially the main thing is the people who are not supposed to be in your labs need not be in your labs, especially the donors. Their entry should only be till where the collection is and the refreshment area. They need not be in the lab. And again, the people who come to take the blood, to take the issued blood, also need not be in your lab. So it has to be restricted. Biological hazard symbols has to be placed wherever it has to be placed. Regular planning of spill management. You need to have a good transportation planning. Everything. These are all standards. Actually, there are all. If you search for it, you'll find the standards. So you have to stick on to the standards. Everyone shouldn't be able to enter into the blood center so easily. So security has to be provided, in the sense, into the area where they are not supposed to be. Staff IDs can be made mandatory. These are a few points I took from ARB website. The requirements for installing a GIC as a gamma radiation chamber. So the room should be restricted by a lock and key. Brick wall, it should be in the sense that radiation outside should have a limit. It should basically be in the ground floor or in the underground area. The main thing is that the machine itself is a very heavy machine, so transporting it will be difficult. So the adequate room size based on your equipment has to be made. The door size has to be given the required size for it to be transported inside. So transporting a GIC is going to be a very difficult thing, and you need to have specific staff for radiation safety officer, operators for GIC, TLD badges has to be provided. Radiation survey meters has to be available. So the thing is, if there is a blood bank alone and you need to have, you can only share these people with the rest of the hospital. So having this for the blood bank alone is not going to be feasible. So again, coming on to the people who are required to man a blood center, these are the minimum requirements actually. All these people, the medical officer, they can all head their blood center. So being a talking of fraternity, if somebody asks me, do you see of a period where the blood bank will be manned only by transfusion medicine consultants? The thing is, in more than 50%, you have to consider India as a large country. So there are less endowed and well endowed places in India. Considering the Northeast, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, you cannot expect to have a transfusion medicine department, a transfusion medicine doctor heading a blood center throughout the country. And in most of, even in a state where the health facility is well endowed, the thing is, most of the small blood center actually shares the doctor with other departments, though it is not allowed by the drug controller, and you cannot say that it's you actually, when you apply for the license, you actually give it a declaration that these staff works only in the blood center, but it doesn't usually happen. Only in large blood centers it happens. Most of the places, the doctors are actually they take care of other department responsibility also, while their name being added in the blood center. So if these kind of things are being taken pretty seriously, many of the blood banks will get locked down, and it won't be. It will be very difficult for them to operate. And recently, the presence of social worker has become very important. The thing is, for a blood center to function, one social worker is enough. But if you are a blood center with who are doing camps, you also need to have an additional social worker. So among this, one of the staff which is not given much importance, but they actually is the core of the blood center, is a technical supervisor. So you have to, whenever you consider building a blood or start operating a blood center, you need to understand that a technical supervisor is a person who manages all the technicians and all the operations. So he's your connection between the doctors and the rest of the staff. So that person has to be capable. Whenever you select the technical supervisor, you have to be very careful whom you select for that post. So if you are not selecting the right person, the ease of operating a blood center will be very, very, very difficult. So the thing is, once a person is joins your blood center, he is given the appointment letter and he will be able to work in your blood center. And only after I have depicted a few the various time periods where these people will be eligible to be added into the blood center. So only when that time period gets completed, they will be added into the license. Till then, they can work, but their name won't be added. So these are the minimum number of people who has to be present with the required experience in a blood center for it to be operational. So there was another expert committee recommendation which came out in 2017 under the chairmanship of Special Director DGHS. So it has been given in the NACO website. So when you look into it, for a blood center to have more than 10,000 collections, you need to have 5 medical officers. So I don't feel it is practical, and thank God this has not been strictly. We were not asked to follow it because it hasn't come in the Gazette. So it would be based on the practicality only. They have decided to reserve and making it mandatory. So it is there. You need to know it is there, but it is not mandatory. You can function without having such a structure. So these are in my presentation, I haven't tried to inculcate much of the operational aspects because that's huge. So there are certain points which I would like to mention in my presentation about which deals with the operations, but not actually the operational part of the blood center. So the privacy for examination and counseling has to be provided. Minimal contamination risk and dissociation of unrelated activities in collection. Quarantine storage of unscreened unit. These are the few points which the inspector always checks for. Quarantine storage of reactive units waiting repeat test results. So the thing is, you have to, before disposal, you have to find a place actually in blood center which is marked for storing these units, and it has to be marked in red. So quarantine storage, handling and disposal of unusable units, provision of screened unit storage, proper collection, processing, compatibility testing, storage, distribution of blood and blood components to prevent contamination, adequate and proper performance of all procedures relating to plasmapheresis, apheresis techniques, therapeutic basically. Proper conduct of all packaging, labeling, and other finishing operations, and provision for safe and sanitary disposal. So here I have given a list of components, equipments that has to be present in all blood centers, and there are few optional. So you can either have an ELISA or a chemiluminescence like that. You can function without a mobile van to transport blood, but we have. So there are equipments which need to be there in the blood center, which is optional based on the extent of your operations. So equipment procurement, each management, whether it is government or private, will have their own policy for procurement. So whenever you start a blood center or procure an equipment in between, it is a very important thing. So it has to be given its due importance. You recognize a need based on the feasibility. Basically, something will be good. NAT will be good. Of course, we all know that being a transfusion medicine people, we know that NAT is important, but might not be feasible in a particular area based on the volume and the patient's financial conditions. So you have to take a call based on that. And if you are decided to go in for an particular test, you need to zero in on the particular technology which you have to be, focus on, whether it's an ELISA or a chemiluminescence. So the thing is, according to my experience, a company won't be so interested in placing a chemiluminescent equipment in a place where there is less than 300 collections a month, because it's not going to be feasible for them. The equipment itself will cost so much. So you have to be pragmatic when you choose your equipment, and you need to zero in on the best technology which you can go for. Examine and choose vendors. You can ask your peers, you can check the data, maybe past publications and all, and select on a particular vendor and particular equipment. And even a single vendor will be having different models. So you have to zero in on the particular model based on the volume which you will be dealing with, or you always have to think about 5 to 10 years down the line. In the sense, you will have to, whenever you start, never be short-sighted. When you start a department, you need to have an idea regarding how your department is going to be down the line 10 years, because initial investment will be easier than later on in almost all managements. So negotiate among equals and equitable vendors. So price, that's one of the most important thing. You always need to have 2 or 3 vendors towards the end for final discussion, and based on that you negotiate with them. And these vendors always usually have a 20 to 25% margin for negotiation. So you see to it that you bring it down as much as possible during the negotiation. So always, you just cannot negotiate with a single vendor. You need to have 2, 3, 4, at least 3 vendors for negotiation. Then purchase order is created, receive the equipment, and go into the installation report, and a qualification has to be. That's how equipment is procured. So whenever we start a blood center, you need to have an idea regarding blood donation. You just can't start a blood center without having an idea regarding the donor pool which you are catering into. And according to my experience, if you are looking for a volume more than 5,000, you just can't go for replacement donation. You need to have voluntary based donors. You need to have relations with voluntary blood donor organization. You need to know the who and who's of your area, the people who have the power to uh, uh, increase or decrease the donors that can turn up in your departments. The relation building is very important. I think 10% to 15% of your time you have to entrust with the society. Only then you can have a real blood center which can take care of the society needs rather than your department needs alone. Donor motivation program has to be well planned. You have to cater to the social media. Without social media, nothing is going to happen in these days. So you need to have a platform. You need to build it. You need to find time for it. IEC materials has to be information, education, communication plan has to be there. So you need to know what you have to speak to the donors, how you can motivate them. You need to have a well prepared plan, and you need to execute it. And if you're only planning to have 200 to 300 collection, you can manage with replacement donations. State Blood Transfusion Council. So this is the next step. So you need to have an NOC before you get a license. You need to have NOC before you go for renewal. You need to have registration with the SBTC once you get the license, and you need to keep having that registration. You need to, if a whole blood center is trying to change into a component separation unit, you need to have the permission from the SBTC. So coming on to the NOC for new license, basically the SBTC see to it that whether your blood center is actually required, in the sense in the particular geographical area, whether it is actually needed. If there is a lot of concentration of blood centers, if these kind of things gets more important when you go for a standalone blood center. And starting a standalone blood center in Kerala is going to be a nightmare. It's very difficult thing. You can have a blood center based owned by an charitable organization, but the charitable organization has to have a valid reason for starting the blood center. In the sense, you cannot start a charitable organization on a fine day, and the next year you cannot apply for a blood center. You need to have an operational charitable organization in at least 4 or 5 years, which has a good reputation in the society. Just look at the charitable organization in Kerala which are doing it. Organizations like IMA, who has been in the society, working for the society for countless years. So nobody can question their intentions. So that is important. But in certain other part of India, it's not that strict. We know that. But still, in Kerala, it's like this. So the thing is, when you are starting a new blood center, you need to go with the application to the SBTC prior to you start building or investing in the blood center. In the sense, if the NBTC is not going to approve your application, you cannot do anything regarding it. In the sense, if you have invested in the blood center and they are not going to approve, and that's it, your entire money is gonna down the drain. So before the construction, you need to give a plan, sketch of the proposed blood center and memorandum of association. So when I started my blood center 7 years back, I didn't know that. Once I completed the construction, then only I went for the NOC. But actually, it is supposed to be done before that. NOC for renewal. So you need to have all these documents given to the SBTC, sent to the SBTC. At least apply 3 months. 3 months is high time. So I usually go at least 6 months before the expiry of the license. So these things might take time. So you need to have your own time margin. So have your CU time. So 3 months at least in advance. This is what is written in the SBTC site. And all this application has to be submitted with the, all these documents has to be submitted with the application form. Again, registration. To operate in Kerala, you need to have a registration with the SBTC, and that is different from the NOC. And that need to have another 5,000 rupees payment. And with that, there will be an inspection, and after the initiation, the SBTC can inspect you at any time based on their recommendation. Usually, the SBTC inspections are done by the nodal officer in Kerala. When I started my operations, it was done by the SBTC itself. The staff from the SBTC used to come, but right now every district has a nodal officer, and nodal officers are the ones who do the inspection. They send their report to the SBTC, and we get the NOC. Usually, considering the licensing procedure, this NOC, getting the NOC procedure is it happens quite easily, and the time period is less. Usually happens within 1 month. Coming on to the regulatory requirements for license, these definitions are important. That's why I have written it over here. The blood center is an authorized premise in a organization or institution, as case may be, for carrying out all or any of the operations, including collection, apheresis, processing, storage, distribution of blood drawn from donors. Here comes the important thing, or received from another blood center for preparation, storage, distribution of blood components. So based on the GSR, the latest gazette which came out in 2020, it said that you can prepare, store, maybe process, store, and distribute blood connected from another blood center based on the definition. So I don't know whether anybody is doing it in Kerala, but we will definitely look into it. And if it is, if we can do it, that's a wonderful way of centralizing, in the sense you can collect blood from many other places, many other approved centers, and you can transport it if it is approved. I am not sure about that, but if it is, we haven't looked into it, and we will definitely look into it. Then blood component means a drug prepared, obtained, derived, or separated from a unit of blood drawn from a donor. And blood product, look at the difference, means a drug manufactured or obtained from pooled plasma, blood by fractionation drawn from donors. So blood component is a regular component, and blood product is the fractionated product. And donor, there is nothing new regarding it. The donor has to be a voluntary, preferably a voluntary donor, and he shouldn't receive anything in cash or kind as a payment. So that's it. It's important, but that's all what we know. So application for the grant of license, these forms are important theoretically. Application 27C and 27E for blood product, that is fractionated things. License to operate 28C and 28E for blood products. Renewal 26G and 26I for blood products. So the documents required while you apply for a license is a covering letter, application form, questionnaire, a challenge, 6,000 rupees for your license and 1,500 for your inspection. Blueprint of the plan of your blood center, which is signed by an engineer. Constitution, MOU of the organization, that is an important thing. Who owns the blood bank is very important for the bureaucrat or the inspectors who comes. Resolution of, if there is any complication or any opaqueness regarding the ownership, that's the end of it. Inspection, you won't be able to clear it. Resolution on the decision, declaration and attestation by staff that they are working in your blood center and your blood center alone. So if a pathologist is working in the pathology department and the blood center, but he has to give a declaration that he's working in the blood center alone. List of equipments, all the equipments that is being used in your blood center. You also need to have a bill in your own name in your blood center. That's very important. So the thing is, you cannot get an equipment which you don't own and have start a blood center for lease, or in the sense like that. List of blood components has to be written in the covering letter and 27C. Copies of labels and SOPs. This is the fee structure which usually you have to pay. The licensing fee should be 5,000 rupees. It has to be paid during the starting of the application, or the first application, and for renewal. Inspection fees 1,500. Renewal of license inspection 1,500. Renewal after expiry before 6 months. You can pay and apply again with a payment of 1,000 rupees as fine. For each new products, 300. Endorsement of your staff, 1,150. A duplicate license, if you spoil or misplace your old license, 1,000 rupees. Reapply after rejection in 6 months, 250 rupees. So the application process and the inspection is what I'm going to deal with next. So there is 3 copies has to be sent. One is the zonal office of CLA, the Central Licensing Authority, SLA State Licensing Authority. For us is zonal office is in Chennai, State Licensing Authority is in Trivandrum, and regional office for me is in Kozhikode Civil Station. So you need to send 3 applications. The joint inspection will be planned. And if you are not going to do, if you are going to apply for a component that is not among the basic components in the sense of PRBC, FFP, cryoprecipitate, platelets, I advise you to go for a subject expert, because subject without the subject expert, there is I have found that the inspectors find it difficult to approve for products like irradiation and stem cells and all those kind of things. So it's always better to have a joint subject expert. So always apply for that. In your letter, you kindly request for that. Currently, the subject expert is usually a person, mostly the nodal officer. If the nodal officer is performing or well versed in the component which you are applying. In the sense, if you are applying for stem cell license, you need to the nodal officer should have an experience in that. If she is not having an experience in that, she or he is not having an experience in that, then another doctor who has an experience will be considered. And primarily, they will usually look for a government doctor. And if it is not available, they will go for a private doctor working in a private institution. So that is how usually they have been doing it. So first 3 copies is sent, and after doing the homework, they will look into your usually they look into your SOPs and all your equipments, and they will have a good idea when they will be coming for inspection. And all the 3 people will be coming for the inspection in your center. And by the end of the day, you will have an idea whether it will be approved or rejected. So the report will be sent to the SLA and Central Licensing Authority. And further, a report is verified by SLAs, that is State Licensing Authority, and license in triplicate is sent to the CLA, that is Central Licensing Authority, to get it signed. That's in Delhi. CLA approves and send it back to SLA. The sign is taken on the original licenses. So there are 3 original licenses, and it is sent back to the State Licensing Authority. State Licensing Authority sends it 1 copy to the license holder. So at the end of the entire process, 3 originals will be there. 1 will be with the CLA, 1 will be with the SLA, State Licensing Authority, and 1 will be with the licensee. And the duplicates will be with the zonal office and the regional drug controller's office. And the validity is usually 5 years. In case of grievances, any grievances, you can appeal to SLA or State Licensing Authority or Central Licensing Authority. In case of a rejection, SLA or CLA can cancel the license after giving the reasons in writing anytime. So the license can appeal, the licensee can appeal after the receipt of the order. The reapplication should be within the 6 months, or else you will have to apply for a new license. So these are some conditions which you have to follow. With power comes responsibility. So when you have the license, these conditions you have to follow. So you have to provide and maintain adequate staff, plant and premise for the proper operation. Maintain necessary records and registers for 5 years. Do test in on laboratory for your blood. Provide samples to inspectors as and when required. Allow inspectors to enter and inspect any records and documents and processes. Any alteration in staff and premises has to be informed to the licensing authority, usually the SLA, so State Licensing Authority, can withhold any product or batch of products. Shall not use if storage conditions are not met. Shall not use unless with order from a registered medical practitioner. You cannot issue without getting a request from a doctor. So usually you in some part of the country, you might get a request from Ayurvedic or homeo doctors. Actually, you're not supposed to issue blood when it is there. Comply with any orders in official gazette in 4 months. The thing is, whenever a new gazette comes, the last came in 2020, you are actually supposed to follow all the orders in that gazette within 4 months. So if you don't do it, actually your license can be cancelled based on the legal aspects. The inspection book has to be maintained. So a book with all the information regarding the inspection can be maintained. Any batch not complying with standards shall be destroyed. Any components. Biomedical waste management rules has to be followed, the latest. There shouldn't be any entertaining of paid or professional donors. Copy of license shall be displayed at the premise. That's very important. Original of the license should be produced at any time. You should also actually, if you have a storage center, that storage center also has to depict or display the copy of your license. So what happens right now? There is a massive acquisition spree that is happening in the health sector. In the sense, every small chain is being gobbled up by one of the major chains of hospitals in the country. So what happens when the management of the hospital changes? Actually, you have to apply for a new license within 3 months of the purchase. So your license number itself will change. Change in premises within the institute. So which we underwent this recently. So the pre-approval plan, even before you start constructing the new center, you have to send a plan to the state licensing authority for the approval. You will get back your blueprint with the sign of the approval of the state licensing authority. After that, you start construction. Then SBTC NOC has to be taken. Application in 27 C has to be given again, because you are looking for a new license now. Your license number is going to change if you change the premise, completely change the premise. I'm not talking about extending the area. I'm talking about changing from one place to another place. Installation and calibration of equipments in the new blood center is has to be done. So the thing is, after the joint inspection, they will ask you to install and calibrate all the equipments in the new center and give them the reports of that. Only then they will consider that, and you will get the license. So that is the actual procedure, legal procedure. Wait for the approval, maybe 1 month or 2 months, and you will get a new license number with a new license. Coming on to, so we have completed all the things which I could think of regarding the licensing part of a blood center. Now we are going into storage centers. Storage centers are actually exempted from owning a license. Actually, a captive consumption, it was an earlier standard. It was removed in 2017. Earlier, it was like, if you think that a storage center can have require more than 2,000 units, you should convert into a blood center, but not anymore. So how much ever big the hospital is, they need not have a blood center for themselves. They can actually get attached to a central blood bank. So that's a concept of centralization that is slowly being practiced by our country. So recently there has a new notification, or the minutes of the NBTC meeting came out with the plan for capital blood centers. So the country is going for centralization. I happen to go in a different direction. I'll come back. So it has to be approved by the state or union territory licensing authority after satisfying the condition and faculties through the inspection. Remember, it only has to be approved by the state licensing authority. You need not have a license, because the storage center works on the license of the mother blood bank. So a storage center can procure only from government blood bank, Indian Red Cross Society blood bank, regional blood transfusion center, duly licensed. The state can take a call on this actually. So in Kerala, RBTC status is not provided to anyone anymore. And basically any blood center can be a mother blood bank in Kerala. There is no restrictions based on the distance of the storage centers. So actually you can have, if there is a blood center, you can have a storage center anywhere in Kerala. No restriction of responsibility of transport. Actually, either party can transport. The storage center can transport, or the mother blood bank can transport. It's silent on the conditions of transport, but we need to have, if it has to be sustainable, we need to have our own process of controlling the transport. It's silent on the return of units from the storage centers. You can either take back the units or you can issue and not take back it at all. But if you are deciding to take back, you need to have your own controls. Silent on QC to be followed. Can blood center transport across state borders? So we would have thought about it if we were in near one of the borders, but anyway, we'll have to travel at least 100 kilometers to reach any of the borders. So we haven't thought of it. And for that, I think we will require permission from the other states' licensing authority. Storage centers. For starting a storage center, these are the minimum requirements. 10 square meters space. That's too less actually, but that is the minimum required space. Well lighted, clean, plus or minus air condition. Work table with water supply. It should be preferably near lab, because again, though they ask that a lab technician has to be exclusively available for the storage center, the technician should be exclusively given to the storage center. It's not going to be happening in any of the small hospitals, because they are going to share their staff between the lab and the blood center. So nearer to the lab, it will be easier for them to monitor the equipment. So when you are advising somebody, always tell them that the storage center has to be near the lab. There should be one medical officer who is trained in procurement, storage, cross-match, and identify hemolysis and expiry. This is what exactly being mentioned in the CDS CO guideline. Lab technician should be experienced in blood grouping and cross-matching. So who gives this training? So SBTC is supposed to train the storage center stuff, but the training happens, it doesn't happen regularly. So we managed to, being the mother blood bank, we managed to train our own storage center staff on a regular basis. So that's how we manage our training. Storage centers shall maintain all records and documents for 5 years, shall maintain samples for 7 days after issue. Mother blood bank should test the blood component and mention date of testing on the blood bank. That's a requirement actually. So we'll have to think about that. It was written in the guideline. Both MBC and storage center shall maintain a record of transported units. So it should be very clear that what you're transporting, what is there in the storage center, you need to have a good idea regarding all these things about the stock.
Yes, this suspension only. This is also suspension.
So I can hear somebody talking. Is it to me? No. Okay, fine. Storage center. So again, you have, when you plan for a storage center, you need to assess the bed strength of the hospital, the departments which they are having. You have to assess the requirement they will be having, because once you onboard them, you will have to supply their requirements. So you have to have a good idea regarding their requirement down the line. So foresight is very important when you do these kind of activities. Formulate an MOU, including the price at which we are planning to give to the storage center. Obtain an NOC from the mother blood center. Specify the components that can be provided by the mother center to the storage center. That's very important. This NOC has to be submitted to the state licensing authority during the inspection procedure. Application should be given in a duplicate to SLA and regional office of LA. Inspection will be by the regional office of LA, that is the district office licensing authority at the storage center. If the licensing authority is not aware of the stock which you are having in your mother blood center, they might inspect you also, the mother blood center also. So the time period of an approval is 2 years. So you need to renew the permission. Since it happens at the state level, it is quite easy and it happens very fast. So again, you have to apply for renewals at least 3 months prior for all applications till what we have mentioned till now. So these are the equipment that is required for a storage center. These are the refrigerator, freezer, platelet agitator, powered blood transportation box. Whether the mother blood center is transporting or the storage center is transporting, the storage center need to buy a blood transportation box and have a bill that they own one. So that's very important. Sample centrifuge, incubator, microscope. These are the equipments, and so the equipments alone. If you start a new storage center, it might cost, if you are buying good equipments, it might cost 10 to 14 lakhs. And if you are planning to store all the three, in the sense FFP, platelets, and PRBC. And whenever you start a storage center, I always suggest to go for good equipments, costly equipments, because the thing is, you will in all these centers there will be only one refrigerator and one freezer, and if it is gonna have a downtime, in the sense if it is gonna get damaged, then you are in a soup. In the sense, if you don't have an alternative plan, which you need to have in all storage center, if one equipment something happens to it, what you're gonna do, and you need to keep the downtime of your equipments as minimal as possible. So that is very important. So always in a storage center, go for a good equipment. That's our policy. The storage center application again include a covering letter, declaration, educational qualification, NOC from the mother blood center, equipment with bill, installation, and calibration to be provided a fast challan of the payment of 1,150. So again, blood requirement in organ transplant settings. So in actually, there's a gazette which came out with respect to blood organ transplantation. It says that for a hospital to start organ transplantation, solid organ mostly, you need to have 24-hour availability of blood bank in-house or access. So there is a word which says access. So you need not actually have a blood center at your hospital to start organ transplantation program, which is not being approved by Kerala even now. In the sense, recently we were actually working with two hospitals, one in Kozhikode and one in Malappuram. One in Kozhikode and one at Malappuram. So they both went for an inspection or a permission for organ transplant, and it was not given. So in many part of the country, especially in Gujarat, Karnataka, these are the places which I checked on. So all these places actually, for a hospital to start organ transplant, you need not have a blood bank. You can do it with a storage center. So basically the large flow is for centralization. The country is slowly moving towards centralization. Kerala will be obviously be the last state to change these kind of things, but down the line 10 years, the number of blood centers are going to come down, and large central blood centers are going to emerge. Coming on to camps, a license designated regional blood transfusion center. These are the organizations which can have a camp. A licensed government blood bank, an Indian Red Cross Society owned blood center, a licensed blood center run by voluntary or charitable organization, a private hospital blood center. Actually, everybody who feels like having a blood center, doing a camp can do a camp if they have the required staff. So these are a few points regarding regional blood transfusion center, permission for that. Actually, again, for a camp, the requirements are sufficient area it has to be hygienic, it should allow proper operation, maintenance, and cleaning. So continuous electric supply has to be there. Adequate lighting has to be provided. Hand washing facility, reliable communication system to the central office of the blood center has to be there. We even need to have a internet because we have a software, so it will be internet facility has to be there. We usually do it through the dongle. Furniture and equipment has to be arranged. So we do camps on a large basis. In the sense, in a month we usually have more than 15 camps. So most of our collections are through camps. So we have a well-oiled process and procedures for doing a camp. So it's a regular part of the of our operation. So and we do it at minimal expense, in the sense we don't maintain furniture or these kind of things. We actually do it on rent, and in the sense the capital expense is kept to the minimum to make it operational efficient. The refreshment facilities for the donors and staff has to be provided by the blood center. Facilities for medical examination for donors has to be, the privacy has to be given. Proper disposal. The blood center has to take care of the waste that is being generated at the camp. So these are the staff requirement for holding a camp. So 50 to 70 donors can be bled in 3 hours, or 100 to 120 donors can be bled in 5 hours. Usually, you need to restrict the hours in which a camp is being operationalized, and you need to be very careful about the distance you travel for while holding a camp. The main thing is that when you do camps at a far-off place and you transport the blood back, you cross that 6-hour window for processing, and usually the FFP, though we haven't seen much difference in the quality of the FFP after being prepared after 6 hours. Based on our national standards, we are not supposed to do that. So we have to transport blood as soon as possible to the blood center. So in far-off camps, actually, we transport blood in lots in between the camps. So these minimal staff requirement has to be adhered to. So again, a checklist of equipments has to be maintained. Well-diversified responsibilities has to be given to the staff. Internet facility has to be available. Mid-camp transportation of components, which I have already mentioned. Temporary couches, transportable couches. These are the things which we follow. Establish strong relationship to ensure long-term association. If we hold a camp, we generate 2 or 3 camps from that camp, and we see to it that we redo the camp in 6 months. Feedback has to be collected from organizers and random donors. Organizers and donors has to be appreciated. So these people, the people who are doing the camps are doing it for the society. Actually, they are not getting anything out of it, rather than the altruism that we talk of during the what happens during the donation. So it is our responsibility that we thank them and appreciate their effort towards the society. Constant communication with the organization, mainly the voluntary blood donor organization, has to be maintained. According to our operation, they are the most important connect to the society. Again, coming on to the bulk transfer. So recently, the standards have permitted blood banks to transport blood in large numbers. So blood centers can transport components in bulk to other blood centers with facilities of storage, monitoring, blood distribution. So if a blood center has a license to issue one component, you can actually transport that particular component to them. Once it is transported to a blood center, it cannot be further transported to a different blood center, but it can be transported to a storage center. So it is actually permitted across, bulk transport is permitted across state borders. SPTC has to be informed. The transportation has to be well controlled. Responsibility is with the supplier. Over here, the responsibility of the transport has well depicted. So the donor consent should be obtained to use the blood beyond the limits of the blood center. That anyway, we are getting it during the registration itself. Suppliers can charge for the transported units. The the blood bank which supply can charge for the preparation of the unit. The recipient can only charge for the compatibility testing. That has to be adhered to. The traceability is very important. Recipient responsible for compatibility testing, rest all responsibility is with the supplier. The reactions are dealt with and reported by the recipient. TTA test results should be retrievable or supplied with the units whenever bulk transport is being done. So these are the list of components that is actually licensed, that can be licensed by the, based on the gazette that came out in 2020. So it has increased from 5 or 6 earlier to 22 right now. We are almost licensed for all these things, and we are the one among the very few in Malabar who are licensed for such a large. So a lot of hospitals actually come and take irradiated, because right now it has to be legal. So once the law comes, we have to follow it. And if you are letting a transfusion happen without you being permitted or licensed for it to be issued, then it's a problem. As soon as a legal issue comes up, entire thing will fall back on you. So as the law asks us to get it, you are supposed to get license for all these things if you are intending to issue them. So coming on to the pricing of blood components, the guidelines have been fixed, initially fixed in 2014. It is validated periodically. The latest notification has come out in 2022. Separate charges has been given for government and non-government centers. So it varies based on the consumable processing performed and the tests done. And state government can take this as a guideline and further create state-wise notification. In the sense, that is just a guideline that has been given by the NPTC after verification of all the charges. The state government can further decide on it. They can take it as a guideline and decide on it further. They can't go beyond it. They can come in towards the lower side, actually. So 2014, they have given a good split up of all the individual charges, how this has been given. No charges can be added. Additionally, that has been already factored in the sense, further processing, you cannot, if you are doing testing on a chemiluminescence, you cannot further add the chemiluminescence charge once being currently the ELISA charges being considered. So that is very important. So when you are giving blood to thalassemia, hemophilia, sickle cell anemia, and blood dyscrasias, you have to give them free of cost. So the charges shall be displayed at the blood center, and it is supposed to be revised in every 3 years. But from 2014, there hasn't been any significant revision till now. So these are the charges, as we all know. There is 2 different charges for private and for government. 2014 and comparison I have given, there hasn't been any significant increase, though the country has gone, the consumer price inflation is going up significantly. This has placed the private institutions operations in a difficult situation as of now. So it might go on for another 3-4 years, and if a feasible price increase is not being undertaken, our operations might get challenged. No. So these are the further processing charges which we can add. So I'm coming to the last final few slides. This is a capital blood center concept that has come out in the recent NBTC meeting. It will be they are again going more and more into the centralization principle. So the thing is, the country wants to build more central blood banks being operated by the government as of now. So build on a need basis, their aim is to consolidate smaller blood centers, providing safe and quality assured blood to the smaller, that is the greater objective, to the centers which don't have a blood center. preferably be in an existing tertiary care teaching hospital or associated with it. So currently the capital blood centers are being envisioned, being managed by teaching institutions. So only discussions have happened. A lot of opinions have been given, which will be further discussed, and a decision will be taken. I hope private centers will also be given due importance, and because it's just think about banks in India, in the sense, for loans to be given to each and every person of the country, you have to give that responsibility to the private sector also, because without the private sector being in any of the sector, there will be a massive gap, as we have already seen. So, as we all know, HDFC Bank is the best bank in the country. Manpower, coming on to manpower and equipments. So when you have a capital blood bank, you need to have a professor or a director heading it, who has at least 10 years of experience in the field. And for assistant and associate professors, NMC guidelines will be followed. Equipment list, they haven't actually given a list. They have said that RFID identification should be undertaken. For that to be done, actually, we are already doing it. To do it on a larger scale, actually, that pricing has to change, first of all. Otherwise, all these additional data mining, RFID, bringing in AI, all these things will be very difficult for blood transfusion services. So if we have to grow with the country, the prices has to change with respect to that. So these are the references which I have taken, and I would like to bring to your notice this is the quote of the day. The clearest way to show what the rule of law means to us is in everyday life is to recall what has happened when there is no rule of law. So we know when there what used to happen when there was no licensing. So it's actually rules has to be there and it has to be followed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Nittin. It was a very elaborate and clear presentation. Actually, it has touched all the areas of setting up a blood bank and the further ongoing steps also. Before opening the session for discussion, I would tell just one thing, especially for the juniors in the group. This is a balancing act. It needs smartness, and it's a something like connecting many dots. There is equipments, personnel, space, administration is there, vendors are there, common people is there, and clinicians, everything is there. So it's ultimately a balancing act of connecting with a smartness, intelligence, and obviously without forgetting the transfusion science. And I would like to give one more advice, like don't think that, especially juniors and residents in this group, don't think our area is immunohematology or clinical transfusion practice like that. The best time to learn administration is your learning period. The seniors will be doing the administrative part. Just get involved into it. Like we all know, to learn swimming, dive into the river. That's the best thing. So hold their hands, learn all these steps. Once you do, you will do. Don't think like it's an essay question for third paper or fourth paper. It's nothing like that, because this is what Nittin has presented is our bread and butter. Everything is there, but this we have to do mandatorily. By this, I would like to open the forum for discussion. If any questions are there, you can ask Nittin. He's very well versed with this area. He has done these things from grassroots level to the highest point. So this will be the best time to clear your doubts. Please. And
Hello.
I think few seniors, yeah, please.
Hello, I'm Dr. Meena Bibi. Right now I am in charge of a blood storage center only. Actually,
Yes,
pathologist by profession.
yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I would like to ask about the blood storage center. It told you it needs only one technician and one medical officer, is it? So,
Yeah.
to run it 24 hours, some other lab technician also should be trained in the field for cross-matching and issuing of the blood. In that case, during the time of approval, do we need to add that technician's name also in the list?
Actually speaking, for you to get the approval, you just require one doctor and one technician. But to operate it on a regular basis, 24/7, you need to have more staff working in the storage center. So the thing is, actually, if you look at where it actually can go wrong is, if a person who is not approved uh, in the permission does something wrong and ends up in a suit, and some illegal issue happens, then actually in such a scenario, the hospital becomes responsible because they allowed somebody who is not trained to do this job. So it is actually based on the operations and all those kind of things. So I suggest that whenever you start a storage center, you see to it that all your staff who are working in the storage center should at least have training in the blood banking. So if there is some issue that happens, you can show that this particular person is trained. Actually speaking, ideally, their name should be added in the permission.
Thank you. Because the drug controller, regional drug inspector who visited our institution 3 weeks back, he mentioned that all these technicians' names should be, it would be well and good. He didn't compel actually, but it will be well and good if you add all these technicians' name into the approval list.
Yeah, that is ideal, but it is practically very difficult to do. Even I have many storage centers. It is very difficult to have multiple people in the, because these staff keep on changing the place of their work and all. So they might leave, they might stay for some few months and all. So it's very difficult. But see to it that they are trained. At least they should have 3 to 5 days of training at the mother blood center.
Thank you.
Sir, I wanted to ask two questions. If a facility is planning to start for a CAR T cell, for that, if we are planning to start lymphocyte harvest, we need a different license for that. And the second question is, if a patient is that of a thalassemia trait, even thalassemia trait should be considered for giving blood without charge. Thank you.
So actually, a person who is having, I'll take the second part first. Thalassemia trait need not be given blood free of cost. If a person is having frank thalassemia and major, and they are having issues because of that, because of the thalassemia issue, then you can give it for free. And for CAR T, the thing is, actually there are two components which has been given in the blood in the new list, saying that one is leukapheresis leading to lymphocytes, and second is leukapheresis leading to mononuclear cells. Actually, the CAR T cell is being prepared by from this lymphocytes. So the thing is, I applied for it and I got it. So I think they are giving it. So if it is being given to me, then you should also have it. So that
Thank you, sir.
particular thing is there. Leukapheresis leading to lymphocytes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
How early should we apply for a license for starting a new blood bank?
Once you decide on starting a new center, the first thing you over here in Kerala, what we do is first we take an approval from SBTC, especially if you are a standalone blood center, and see that if it is if an NOC is being provided. Once the NOC is being provided, then you do the construction, you procure the equipments, you get the staff and then you apply for it. And anyway, once you make the application, it will take at least in present guidelines 3 to 6 months. Now ONDLS has come in, so the process has gone online. It will be more standardized within the next 1 year. So initially, all this online things will be difficult, as we all know. But after 1.5 years, these kind of things are gonna be much easier. And the time that is actually required for these things to happen is gonna come down drastically. So I feel that the 6 months time, which is right now happening, is gonna happen within 1 month in the near future.
Thank you, sir.
I guess I clarified your doubt.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, I'd like to ask one more question. Can one medical officer look at, can he had more than one blood center in the same
No.
city or, yeah?
No, actually speaking, we have to give the declaration in writing that we are working only in this particular blood center, and you are not even, if you are a pathologist, you are not even supposed to work in the pathology department. That is how it is. I think I made it clear. You are
Okay.
only supposed to work in this department. The only responsibility which you can take up is the responsibility of your storage centers, because they come in under your license. So you can work for them. You can take care of their patients and all, which we are doing. But you cannot work in another blood center. You can only work in a blood center.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I think few seniors are also in the group. If they have something, few tips in administration to give to your juniors, they can come out and speak. Okay, I think the doubts have been settled. We can go for closing the session. Will there be, Atira, will there be someone closing the session, or should I close the session?
I think it will be better if Sajith itself will close the session.
Yeah. So once again, it was a nice session. It started with full quorum. I don't know whether this is Zoom basic platform 100% has joined. Few might not have been able to join. I think even they can see the video. It was quite a useful and wonderful session.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please, ma'am.
Sir, can I ask a question? So
Sure,
for
sure.
incorporating software in the blood bank, is there anything additional that we have to do? Any additional permission or anything additional that sir has done?
You need not take any additional permission. First of all, you have to look into the finances actually, whether your operations can manage the cost of the additional cost of the software. That is the most important thing. Next, you decide on a vendor. After due consideration, you negotiate and all those kind of things, which I have already mentioned. It's just like taking a new equipment. And once you decide on the thing, you start working with the vendor. You install the new software. You have to cater it to your own needs. You have to taper it. In the sense, it's a prolonged procedure. It might take 3 to 6 months. A lot of changes in the software might have to be made according to your functionalities. And that's it. And if you are depending on the software for any key things like deciding whether a unit has to be released and all, and in Western countries they even do electronic cross match, and such activities has to be validated, and it has to be that is one of the most important things. So the thing is the equipment has to be tested for glitches, and whether you have to do a good validation, so that you have to be sure that no mistakes will happen in that key step. So that is important. Other than that, you need not take permission from anyone. Only the cost and validation is important.
Sir, I would like to ask additionally, have you been able to do away with some of the registers because we are supposed to maintain some registers mandatorily? Like, have you been able to do away with master register, or how have you
Yeah,
convinced the drug controllers?
Yeah, in the sense, actually, we are in the process of inculcating our new software. We are slowly taking out the registers one by one. We are in the midst of adoption, but some large blood centers have already done it pretty well. And I have got to know from my colleagues that they have even taken out one of the most of the main registers, and they are taking printouts and keeping it. And it will be undersigned, and they will maintain it. But few registers such as donor register, master register, and all has to be maintained. So those has to be kept as it is. But rest of the things, you can actually take TTA register and all these kind of things can be printed and kept. And it's just like as what I said, in the sense already said in the beginning, a law has to be accepted by all the people, in the sense they might interpret in a different way, but with time, as time passes by, the hard copies will slowly go away from our lives, almost completely in the next 5 to 10 years. And even in blood centers, it will be completely software. That's how things are going to change. So it will take time, but slowly they will accept, because there is no reason why they shouldn't. I think I clarified your doubt.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Nittin, for giving such a wonderful session, and thank you, my dear friends, for attending this session and asking very valuable doubts. And once again, I thank Dimas for arranging a very useful session for our fraternity. Thank you. I hereby declare the session is closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
So as we conclude this informative webinar on setting up of a blood center, we would like to extend our deepest gratitude to everyone participated. A special thank you to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Nittin Henry, for his insightful presentation. We also thank Dr. Sajith Vilambil for chairing the session. Finally, we thank all the participants for their active engagement. We hope you find this webinar both informative and valuable. Thank you once again.